All right, pre-market to start here. I went over a ton of stuff in the Discord here as we're watching, as the last YouTube video stated, coming up to that 1618 on the SPY Golden. We talked about here, we had a nice stack of the GPs. Obviously needed to move to the 2618, talking about that about 6:30 in the morning. Now for the full Discord breakdown here, we went over tons and tons and tons and tons of information all morning like usual, and I want to go over some of the best cases and everything that we had seen play out to the T first. So we had a run up, right? We are coming into all-time highs. Q's is clearly the leader before SPY here today, right? All you got to do is see it in the fibs. Yesterday's highs gap up, way lackluster, was way down here as we came into the day, and I said, yeah, right, this is going to easily scam up highs because we're in an all-time high gap up momentum mover on a Thursday. Still have another day of the week here. Plus, we had already tracked down the golden QQQ 1618. So we had a no tag GP we were watching on SPY, right? And we said it was going to come up to 66977 potentially on the YouTube. And that's where we are way over, right? And when this happens, pre-market becomes very early and it just scams up. We say this every single time in pre, right? So it was very easy, just buy all dips, just let it run, let it scam till after 7:30, generally 8, like a half hour before the market opened. That's when we finally slow down the algorithmic force up on all the scams we see on the computers. It's real simple. So the high low here, right, pushes 1618, hit that yesterday on Qs. Now we're inbound for the 2618. Clearly nowhere near what SPY is doing with the same candle, as we could barely make it over the 1618, right? So Q's range, big tech news this morning, obvious catalyst, right? So when it comes down to the technicals, we had a couple different things to work with here between the two, especially with the quad GPs. So we marked off this one on ES, and ES is generally the real market here. Always watch for those algo tags way above Qs. Even if Qs is leading, it doesn't matter. You can still play the NQ off the SPY as always. That's the better route. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 5-minute Q, no tag GPs. We hit the 1618, no back test. So of course, force up scam, 2618, right? Gets a little jazzy with the jobs data, but we know that's a scam. Why? Well, because the big algos, the big range, and the big market today, which is the leader in Qs, still had plenty of room to go, as we've discussed a million times, right? We have this algo, which is the standard 3 a.m. algo. We get these a lot nowadays. This is when stocks start trading on US, right? 3 a.m. Central. So this algo, boom, and again, scam shy is the 1618, comes back down, full ripper, and finally coming into my last target here of 607.30, right? Doesn't mean short right here, just means we finally hit long targets. There's no confirmation. And as confirmation traders, I could care less what the market does, especially on trend. It's an easy call. And then we just sit tight and wait. So we made 35 points here, another 18 here. We're pretty much done on day. For the smalls at an all-time high trader, because again, the pre-market was one of those just close eyes, buy highs because of all the catalysts we have. We're coming into a no news, nothing burger Thursday. We are pushing off of an algo disruption, right? Force up manipulation scam. And the market manipulates all the time. We play the manipulation. It's really readable. So let's watch. And I say this a million times. I know it's a broken record for most of the people here, but moving average first tags on the new day after a force up are guaranteed, right? We don't like the G word all the time, but here's our 82 coming into that 666 off the 5-minute. So we'll see how high we get here. I wanted at least 67.80 minimum, right? We're talking about that way down here on that dip. But look at the moving averages, right? And oscillation. Everything told you very easily with our 3 indicators. Held the 100 EMA, brand new day starts right here, right? Dash line on TOS. What's it do? Hard consolidation, full scam, and does nothing burger till what? Oh, the moving average hits, go long. Shoop. Moving average hits, long. Hey, very easy, right? Whenever you see a full impulse end of the day scam or one of those just all day grinder ups, it is extremely common that it hits the next moving average and bounces. I don't care if it's just the first tag metric. That's one of my first tag scalps we always use, right? First tag. We run those algos all the time, right? Look at what happened last time. Same thing. Algo controlled by, this is manipulation. Very easy. Here, manipulation. Don't do anything because it's tied right to the 10 SMA. First tag, oh, there's your scalp. Every time, right? Right back to equal highs, 12 points on ES. That was probably a monster on NQ. So whenever you see those grind scams, not chop scams where it hits like this, not over-unders like this, the full manipulation move up, especially at all-time highs where there's no resistance. I mean, come on. How could it get any easier? No resistance. Just wait for support. Any amount of support. anything support, just wait for it, because there's no such thing as resistance. We're at all-time highs, right? No brainer. So look at NQ here. So for the degens today, we're going to go into a couple different things here. We have some nice candles that fib out here. And again, wasn't even worried about any resistance here. We're at all-time high FOMO moving. And the NQ here has showed us that, again, ES is the real market. I could care less what NQ does. I traded off the ES. So when these longs came, notice what? Shying the 100 EMA, which proves consistent strength all the time, right? We had this big ripper. We said, all right, hold on, wait. Comes in, no tag, shy, but it doesn't matter. ES, the real market, which I trade NQ off of all the time, has hit the 100 EMA as we just discussed, right? So that leads Qs to go bonkers, right? Very, very fun. Now, the other thing I posted in chat, I wanted you guys to realize, is that when you go into a 5 or a 15 and you're looking at the overnight action, because we wake up around, I don't know, 5, 6, we usually jump on, maybe a little bit later if we know the market's going to be garbage. We tend to take it back and let the New York Open actually play like 8 a.m. You can start watching, kind of like today. It was, the guaranteed grind up, not much to do. If you look at those candles behind us here, notice that there's just nothing but small everything. Look at how tiny these little 5-minute candles are. No disruptions, no big leg downs, no big pops, until we started, traders started waking up 5, 6 a.m. That's when it starts to be a watch. We don't really come back into like 7:38 for real moves on pre-market grind ups. But look at the size. It's so tiny. And they always do that during manipulation times. That's the easiest thing for it to do. So it comes in and just manipulates these tiny little candles, and all you're going to do is see every force up unnatural movement. We've been teaching that forever. You go to the 15-minute, again, you have nothing to use in a scenario that does not have resistance, right? So why in the world would you try countering until it hits to something massive? You go to the 15-minute chart, same thing. This is the most boring 5-minute overnight I've ever seen. It opens up and it just nothing burger force ups, right? We finally started getting GPs at 6 in the morning. If you look back here, there's nothing. No candle range, no moving average tags, no GPs. When you see that, the computer algos are slow. The price action slows way down. And when they do that, they make these tiny candles and all they do is force it up. They don't let anything drop, which, again, we discussed again all pre and for 10 years here. If we are looking for, right, something to use as bait resistance, we did it on the Qs for the extensions. We have to go back to the next day, and then, of course, we'll get some of these fibs that align with some moving averages, right, 15, but these are, again, from the next day, so they don't have first tag metrics anymore. If a fib is created here on the 1st, and now we're trading the 2nd of October, right, that's not a first tag metric. Not in the same day, so it's not a first tag. So it did not get created here. So when you see a force up like this, and it's just beautiful, 1, 6, 1, 8, 2, 3 had no reaction, 4 had barely some reaction. That was more of a 25,100 in my opinion. And then it keeps going. There's no resistance. We are at all-time highs. There's no such thing as resistance unless we can find it on those ETFs. This is why I don't pay attention to futures 90% of the time unless we got gaps and imbalances that don't read on the market, right? We can't find those imbalances on the QQQ and SPY unless it's intraday, and very rare. So we come back over to the Qs. Oops, get everybody in. And that's how we got our fibs today for the scam up. Here's yesterday's highs, always auto-coded in, right? We have this beautiful big algo. We got this 3 a.m. stock open algo for the regulars in the US. And what do we see? Well, nothing but perfect trend. Go to the 5-minute chart, go to your oscillation. And this is what we said for VIX as well. There will be absolutely no short attempts until I see that Q's bad boy up to the 2618. You can scroll up in Discord, said it 100 times. This algo is making us wait until a 2618, and that's when we can start short sentiment, right? Great. Now I don't mind if you guys short. I don't care what you guys do now. It's not a bad gig right now. If we can finally get some momentum here. So if the VIX is what we said a million times here, loops yesterday's lows, that's the first, oh, green on that. That's the first, let me change this to that and change this. We're there bouncing. All right. All right, where was I here? Vixie. Let's bring it on back. Boom. Boom. All right. So because this is time-based algos, guys, time-based algos, the volatility index has no 100 EMA tag. We've seen that a million times where it can just not come and hit, right? There's just an area of effect where some days it just does not hit, which is common. So you can have all days where we don't have 100 EMA hit. Well, It's just better practice to note where if we do start the day, obviously open here, couldn't get to the 100, couldn't get to the 100. If we hold some support, we're waiting for the VIX to do a little pop to it, right? So I place the wrong order over here. Oh, yeah, I'm mixing ES and NQ. I have max between the two. So $16 loop. So it comes down, hits lows, up, lower high, lower low. Here's yesterday's lows in the blue dash line in the 16. I said the VIX would do what? Has to come down and at least loop yesterday's lows. Because why in the world would it hold support? Algo scam all day, every day. Hits support perfectly, no such thing. Loops under yesterday's lows. Now it has an attempt to run down that 100 EMA. And that's why we kept saying in chat that we have 0 attempts short until that 2618, right? So for the day, we're going to come into this algo being first. We have this beautiful run up, 2618, right? And now we'll be watching for the downside of the daily in that. We don't have any other plays, unfortunately. So we're going to step with this one algo here. What about the 8 a.m. algo candle? Well, no, the 8 a.m. algo candle doesn't work because there's no extension that's ever going to be hit. So if you look at the two algos right here, it's a good question, but if you look at the two algos, this algo right here, right, that's a 3 a.m. stock open algo. That's the one I'm going to focus on first because this algo, if you were to fib it out, where's your 1618? Like into the moon, right? Like way up here. So if the market decides to continue way up there and start going down, I would use the 2618 on the daily because that one comes first. And then your 1618 from the algo is so high up, it's non-existent. You got to use an algo that's within range. So within range on this one, we have this bad boy here running up, and this is where shorts could start. I didn't say max out your accounts and go short, you start on the watch, right? And that's going to be dependent on the downfall here. So we have a massive algo right here, 7 a.m., right? Very typical to get those hour algos too. For rolling support. So if it does come up to the head of this algo and it does not want to let loose, guess what? We're coming up to the 608.16. If we break down here and come down a little bit, we will head down towards the GP. Now, again, at all-time high FOMO trading, I don't care as much about counter trending because yesterday we were not at all-time highs until later. We didn't have a grouping to work off of. It doesn't matter for these, right? So this one right now is going to be pretty simple, I'd say, for the day. We are not touching a single thing unless you had all the long calls this morning and you are waiting for anything to show you VIX strength, right? So bring the VIX over again. Bottom channel its whole life except for a couple seconds here. Bottom channel its whole life for a couple seconds. Unless that wakes up, you're at all-time high FOMO moving. And we don't short opening all-time high FOMO movers. I don't care what extension says what. We can do it on days where it's not at all-time high yet because we started under it. But once you're in a gap and go at all-time highs, you're just in no man's territory. It's a stupid trade. I don't care if it works out. It's just bad practice, right? So with that being said, we are going to watch for the one extension that we have right here with the quad. So we have one fib set, 1618, of course, no back test. And this is the first level of resistance we're probably going to have. Confirmation would be VIX hitting some support and turning around while the market is coming into 670.93, right? So we'll see if that happens. That's a watch. If we lose 16 as we planned and it just scams out, well then, it's sky's the limit. It's just straight up. There's no point to trade it. We are already green across the board on all of our long calls, full scam up, blah, blah, blah. We cannot risk that on an all-time high counter trend short. We don't want to do that. So our progress of upside, we are going to look for cues to lead the day, and we're going to look for that 608.16 first, or an actual structure break turnaround of a break, lower high, and setup that'll come down. And without a real structure break of confirmation of trade, guess what? You don't get to trade. That's simple.